I want them to love the game. I want them to feel safe regardless of how they play. And as far as being true and really reaching your potential, that's got to be the baseline. Because if it's not a safe place for you, it's just a time bomb in so many ways.
Welcome to the Golf Parent, where you get access to the best minds in junior golf. Today's guest is one of the most respected teachers in the game, Josh Zander. He's a Class A PGA teaching professional with over 30 years of experience, Golf Digest #1 instructor in the San Francisco Bay Area, and a perennial top 100 teacher in America. Josh played on the Stanford varsity golf team as an academic All-American, so you know he's a smart guy. He competed on multiple professional tours and even teed it up in the 1992 US Open at Pebble Beach. Today, he teaches at the Stanford University Golf Course and the Spartan Golf Complex in San Jose. And his clarity, simplicity, and wisdom have helped thousands of golfers elevate their game. In this episode, we dig into the fundamentals Josh believes matter most, from the truth about the grip and why so many golfers get it wrong, to embracing swing authenticity, to the mental traits that separate good juniors from future stars. We also talk about how parents can create a safe, joyful learning environment, and how to spot the qualities of a young golfer with serious potential. But before we dive in, a quick message for now from me to you, the golf parent community. We are now averaging over 1.4 million views every single month across all platforms. That's happening because you show up, listening, sharing, commenting, and helping us grow this into the #1 place for parents raising young golfers. So if you haven't already, pause this for 2 seconds, hit subscribe, tap the like button, follow the show, whatever platform you're on. It helps us get bigger guests, reach more parents, and continue building this community together. Thank you for being here. Now, let's get into my conversation with the brilliant Josh Zander.
Hey, Josh, welcome to the Golf Parent Podcast.
Thanks for having me, Ryan. It's a pleasure.
So, we're talking off air just a little bit about where you're teaching and where you've been teaching for, it sounds like a quarter century. And you're teaching at Stanford. Is that correct?
That's correct. I've been teaching at Stanford since 2000, and was on the golf team there in the late 80s, graduated in 90, and I'm still on the same piece of dirt that I was practicing on when I was on the team, and I keep getting a year older. The kids stay the same age as they go through school. I'm still at the same place, and I'm loving every minute of it.
How have you seen the facilities kind of change over the last 20 years?
So the golf team has had a huge upgrade in their facilities. I think maybe 20 years now that they built the Siebel training complex for the golf team. The old varsity area where I teach on the left-hand side of the Stanford driving range, they kind of outgrew that. The kids are getting so long these days that at one point they were even hitting drivers over their teammates' heads just to get a little bit more space to be able to keep the ball in the range. And I think they outgrew it, and now they have as good a facility as you'll find anywhere in the world for the teams. And they uh, they just have this amazing place where they can practice any lie, any shot, any wind direction. They have different green complexes based on where they're going to go practice or where they're going to go play, different kinds of sand in the bunkers depending on where they're going to go in the country. So they are very well prepared, and it's definitely a privilege for those kids to be practicing at a world-class facility like that. And Stanford's very good at hosting their former players if they're in the area. They get to use they call it the Siebel, and it's great. So we're getting quite a few players coming out of Stanford these days, both on both sides, both programs. So it's been uh, Conrad, Ray, and Ann, the coaches there, do just a fantastic job.
That's right. So many of us have heard of Stanford, and we have a general idea of where Stanford is. It's in California, but what city? Like, what's the biggest city closest to Stanford?
Well, San Francisco is about 30 minutes north of Stanford. So Stanford is in Palo Alto,
Ah,
but it's actually its own city. It's got its own zip code. And
interesting.
yeah, so it's right in Palo Alto, and you drive half an hour north, you're in San Francisco, and half an hour south, you're in San Jose.
Okay, I got you. I know exactly where that is.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm curious, Josh. So you're uniquely positioned here because you played, varsity golf. You're a well-regarded teacher now in your own right. I'm kind of curious now with the 20 some years between you actually playing on the team and you now coaching. What are some of the things that you wish that you knew back then when when in the 80s when you were playing that that some of the kids are doing either now, or some of the things that you've recognized to be true that you really wish, oh, if I could go back in time in a time machine, if I could just learn these couple of things, that would have made a huge difference.
This may seem like the most basic thing, but I wish I knew the correct grip, and the
Interesting.
correct biomechanical grip that fit me because I tended to have quite a bit of a curve to the left on my golf ball. And I played my junior golf and my college golf with a hook. And I played my professional golf with a hook. And I never realized that I could have a grip that was non-traditional, and hit the ball a lot straighter. And I now can. It's a little too late as far as having a pro career. But if I had one thing I could wish for, I wish I would have met Mike Addams, who taught me what the correct grip was for me. And that's something I take into every lesson. I make sure I measure everybody biomechanically before I teach them to understand exactly how they're designed to play. So it's more with all the technology and the research that's happened, at least in my lifetime, how much quicker we can get to the root issues than we used to be able to. I mean, my career has spanned since basically started teaching in 1995. So at that point, video was just kind of the only thing we had. And now we have so many more tools. And it's interesting because a lot of the mentors I had taught just through ball flight, which is a great skill to have to develop your eye as a coach. And then with all the technology advancements we've had in the last 30 plus years, I've had the benefit of getting, whether it's TrackMan or Sportsbox AI or all the other great tools, force plates and pressure mats and all the things we have now, and the biomechanists who have come into golf and all the research that's been done. It's been an amazing education for me, and combining those two skills of basically just being out there without anything and being able to teach somebody well, and then being able to use the technology. If I had some of those advantages as a player, um, maybe I would have had a better playing career. But on the other hand, if I would have had a better playing career, I couldn't have been a teacher. So
Hmm.
I think uh, it's sort of like the universe had its plan for me, and I can't imagine not teaching. Somebody asked me the other day, "When are you going to retire?" I'm like, "Well, it's going to be still a long ways away, and if I ever do, it's only going to be, maybe trimming down my schedule." But I can't help but when I see somebody wanting to help them with their game, and I feel like I've been armed with so many great skills to help people, and I can't help but help them. And sometimes I have to refrain because some people don't want unsolicited advice, but it's hard for me to look at something, know I can make it better, and not say something. So
Exactly. Yeah, you'd be remiss not to. Okay, let's go back for a second because you talked about the grip, and I'm curious. So, a traditional grip, we've all been taught that the two V's of our thumb should be pointing at our, I guess, our right shoulder for a right-handed golfer. And you're saying that you wish that you would have understood that it's okay to have more of an unconventional grip. What is an unconventional grip
yeah,
compared to what a conventional grip is?
yeah, conventional grip, like you said, V's to the right ear, the right shoulder as a right-handed player. Very much, the palm of your right hand at the target in the same direction as the club face. And I was basically a rule follower. And so that's what I did. And I would hook the golf ball. But then when I understood the biomechanics of it, there's some people where that grip fits. It's about a third of the population where that grip is correct. And then there's a third that's going to have it more turned, where the B's more towards the nose. And there's probably a third that's going to be more even beyond the right shoulder. So somebody like a John Rahm is going to have a very strong grip. Dustin Johnson, very strong grip. And you'll have other players that'll have the neutral traditional grip, and then the other players will have, I hate this word, a weak grip, and that's what turned out that is what I needed, and that was actually biomechanically strong for me. And when I did that, I was able to let go, unleash my swing, and hit it dead straight versus having that grip, the traditional grip, hook it for me, and then have to hold on to hit it straight, which robbed me of power. So the first
So
thing
how
I
do we
do, yeah,
Yeah. I was
yeah,
gonna say, how do we test that? Like, how do we know? Do we just let
there's
our
a
arms
there's a
hang
very
down
simple test. It's a very simple test that Mike Addams developed, and it takes about 4 seconds, maybe 3 to figure out what your grip should be.
Hey, golf parents, quick pause here. If you're enjoying this conversation and getting value from it, do me a quick favor. Hit that follow or subscribe button wherever you're listening. It helps us reach more parents who are on the same journey as you, raising the next generation of great golfers. All right, that's it. And now back to the show. I love that.
And then there's a
Well, we got
secondary.
time.
Yeah, I don't know if I can do this with my plugged in with my earphones here, but uh, basically we just take the hands, put them together, and then swing the arms and see. You could kind of see where my elbow goes up and back and my palm is down. That's going to be somebody who's going to have a more beat of the nose grip. Other people go more this way. Palm is up to the sky, elbows in front of the body. That's more of an under or a stronger, traditionally called stronger grip. And then there's people who are like this, like you're shaking hands with somebody, and that's going to be somebody who's going to have the neutral grip. So we figure
So
that out.
literally, okay. So for those that are just listening to the podcast and
Yeah.
not watching it, what Josh did is he just put his palms together, made like almost a praying, kind of like a steeple with his hands, and then you kind of kept your elbows close to your rib cage
Yeah.
almost,
So
and you pulled them back.
Yeah. So basically, I just asked them to get their golf posture, clap their hands together wherever they would normally put their hands. And then without turning their chest or their shoulders, just swing their arms to the trail side. And that immediately tells me when I look at where the elbow is relative to the seam of the shirt, if they're what we call a cover golfer, which is a more beat of the nose type golfer, whether they're side on, which is the traditional neutral grip, and if they're under, which is more of the strong grip. It'll present itself right there. And it brings me back to when I first got into teaching and I went to the PGA Coaching and Teaching Summit in New Orleans at the Superdome. And there was a panel of experts at the time, and they were all, and the moderator asked them, what's the most important thing in the golf swing? And the first teacher said, well, it's the grip. And then another teacher said, well, it's the swing plane. And the other teacher said something else. I can't remember. And when the person said the grip, I just kind of rolled my eyes like, come on, the grip's the grip. Let's get to the sexy stuff, right? Let's get to the plane. Let's get to pressure. Let's get to, all the other amazing things we have happen in a golf swing. And if you don't have the grip right, then your whole swing becomes a compensation for an incorrect grip. So are you going to be a compensator, or as my friend Terry Rolls says, are you going to play defense during your swing, or are you going to play offense? And, the best players in the world, I think, are some of the most stubborn players in the world in a good way, because they have found the grip that works for them and that allows them to be extremely powerful and let go and not try to guide or play defense, and let it go and know their ball is going to go where they want it to go. And if a teacher comes and tries to give them a more neutral or traditional grip and messes them up, they're not going to stand for it. But there's some players who are rule followers and they want to make sure they're doing everything right and cookie cutter, and they all want to look like Adam Scott or Justin Rose. Adam Scott, by the way, is an under golfer. He doesn't even have a traditionally right hand to the right ear. He's a little bit stronger with his right hand. But Justin Rose has this perfect looking swing because his right hand is side on. It's the neutral grip. Everybody likes to look at it. The other measurements we do, basically give him the look of the beautiful golf swing that we all like to see, that's aesthetically pleasing. But you know what? When it comes down to it, if somebody said that to Jim Furyk, they probably would have ruined Jim Furyk. If they would have said that to John Rahm, you've never heard of John Rahm. So players find them. They find their correct grip. And sometimes now that we have, I call them geniuses like Mike Addams, who paved the way by really helping us understand who is in front of us, that now we can get to the root cause really quickly and unlock the player. Because ultimately, this, golf has become such a power game. And if you don't have power, if you're trying to compete at a high level, you're at a huge disadvantage. The Corey Pavins and Luke Donalds of the world are not going to be the number one players anymore, because the power is such a big part of the game. And you can't unlock the power if your grip is holding you back. And that's your one attachment to the club. So it better be correct. And so that first person in that at the coaching summit who answered the grip's the most important thing, 30 plus years later of teaching, I'm like, yep, I heard it. I wasn't ready to accept it, but I'm living it now. And I I don't go beyond. I don't fix anything until I know what the person's grip should be. I do online lessons as well, and I have that as part of the assessment process, because if somebody just sends me their swing, I don't really know what they should be doing until I know what grip they should have. So that's the first step. And then there's other assessments that help me understand how they're designed to be the best version of themselves.
Two other questions with the grip, and then we'll get off the grip. But
Yeah.
I'm just curious. So club is in. So I recently got to a thicker, not the standard grip. Now I'm a weekend warrior, like
Yeah.
a 15 handicap hack. Basically, I golf once every two weeks here, and I was fighting a hook, and I read somewhere that okay, go with a thicker grips, and that'll help basically reduce a hook. So I'm like, great, let's try that. Now I haven't even golfed with them yet, but I've
Yeah.
got these thick grips now in my hands where I'm like, ooh, these feel weird. So two questions: grip grip size,
Yeah.
grip or a club in your fingertips, and grip pressure. What's your take on those three things?
If the grip is bigger, it's harder to close the face. So it's not a bad thing. But it's not really, it's kind of a little bit of a mandate. Uh, if I told you, okay, you got to take like a huge pipe in your hand and try to rotate your arms over, it's going to be harder, right? Than something really small. So yes, that makes sense, but it's not really the answer. You want something that's true, because I was thinking about this when you're out a junior golfer, whether you're, trying to play college or something, you're you're out there in this tournament and you have no real team. It's just you. It's just you, the shot, the situation, and you need to have something that's super true that you can rely on. And it's not like something you've cobbled together. And I'm not saying that grip size isn't important. You can play around with that a little bit, but ultimately, you want to be able to know that, hey, you know what? There's water on the left. I can release this as hard as I want and hit it dead straight, and I know it's not going to hook. And it's not because the grip's a little bit bigger. It's because my hands are in a position that when I fully release, the club face comes back to square. And I use the 18th hole at Pebble Beach, the iconic 18th hole with water on the left, as an example very often, because you're on that tee box, and if you hit it left, you're teeing off again. You could be there all afternoon if you keep hooking, because you just can't go left. So I'm like, if you're leading the AT&T by one shot, and you just need to make a par, you got to hit a shot that you know will not curve to the left. And so you need to be able to have a swing, and you can't like bunt it because maybe you can't make par that way. So you got to be able to still make a swing and know your ball can't go left. And so you need to have a grip that allows that to happen and not feel like you have to hold on or guide or do some funky thing in your swing. It's like, no, you can let it go. And that's it. Ultimately, you need trust and the ability to let go to be the best version of yourself. I mean, you can be the 15 handicap weekend warrior, but if you're trying to play at a high level, you can't be playing defense as you play around the golf course. It's just going to catch up to you. There's too many holes in a tournament that are, eventually something's going to get you, and you can't fake it. There's too many
Hmm.
good players out there doing what they truly, genuinely can do and know the ball is going to go where they want it to go. Just look at basically TV on the weekend, and all those guys have something they know they can rely on. And if you don't have the grip, it's you're faking it, and you can't fake it at that level.
What's your take on grip pressure and where the club should be in your fingers?
Yeah. So grip pressure is it's a very subjective thing. Uh, so I think I like to use, and I'll give credit to Pia and Lynn from Vision 54, where they do a grip pressure test where they say, hey, just hit 5 shots with medium grip pressure, hit 5 shots with light grip pressure, hit 5 shots with firm grip pressure, and figure out which one you hit it the best with. Uh, when somebody like Bryson DeChambeau says, I hold it really lightly so I could have some oily wrists and joints and stuff, he's swinging the club at such a high velocity. If you actually measured his grip pressure, it's off the charts. But it might feel light to the player, right? Because he's so strong, right? And part of what he had to do in his training is get himself strong enough that he could feel like it's still light grip pressure, but it's massively strong, or else the club will come flying out of his hands. So I would say what's strong to somebody might feel really soft to somebody else. I guess you can have a gauge to figure out what it is, but the bottom line is hit balls with different grip pressures and see what works for you.
Hmm.
Doing a an article for Golf Digest, and it was on how to hit the ball out of the rough. And when I was getting my picture taken at Impact, the Ron Kaspersky, my editor, said, "Josh, could you relax your face? Your veins are bulging." I'm like, "Have you ever seen a player at Impact where they're not like? Look at the player at Impact. You tell me they're not holding on really tight, especially a higher level player. It's got a lot of swing speed. They're going to have a lot of grip pressure. Now it may feel light to them." So that's why I say it's subjective, because everybody's going to have a different grip pressure they can play the best at, but there's got to be sufficient grip pressure to manage the speed at which you're swinging that golf club. And then
Is
whether
there,
it's in the fingers or whether it's
yeah,
in the
is there a
palm,
universal where you should be holding it?
no, it's not, because when we test the grip, as we figure out where your hand is biomechanically, it'll sit in different places in your hand. So it's not the same for everybody. What I would say is if it gets deep in the palms, you're probably not going to be able to use your wrists very well. And wrists are something that happen rather than need to be manufactured. So the weight of the club will hinge your wrist. The pressure shift will do stuff to your wrist. But there's a lot of people working on different wrist positions, and again, that's not going to be true if you're trying to manipulate something. It needs to happen as a result of correct pre-shot fundamentals, and then correct pressure shift in the swing will make your wrists do the right thing if you're trying to manipulate them. And there's a lot of people who are working on grip manipulation. It's just not going to be true over the long. In my experience, it's not going to be true over over a full round of golf or several rounds. You were talking about tournament play.
I love that. I found myself as you're talking, kind of doing the Josh Zander and the Mike Addams kind of test here. Okay,
Yeah,
so I'm curious. So I got my hands together and I'm turning my body, and for me, it kind of feels like my palm goes up a
yeah,
little bit. Like it's not pointing down. It's not like neutral. It feels like when I go, my palm just naturally my right hand goes up.
yeah. Then
What does that mean then for my grip?
you should have a stronger grip, meaning more under with your right hand. So
Interesting.
if I take a ball, here my hand is on the side of the ball, here it's
Mm-hmm.
under the ball, and here I'm on top or covering it. You would be more under, or sometimes we call it side under, if you're halfway between side and under. And if you think about when you're doing that, right, what's actually happening to the club face when your right palm goes that way more to the sky? It's opening, right?
Right.
Okay. So if you were more of a cover person like me, my hand's going to be more on top. It's going to feel my club face is more closed going back. So people who teach you want the leading edge of your club to be at the same angle as your spine going back, they're teaching cover golf. And then people who are teaching more toe up to toe up kind of thing, which is traditional back from the 70s, they're teaching people who are side on or neutral grip golfers. And then if you have the toe a little bit more to the right, that's more open, the club face is more open, they're teaching under golf. So you have to be very careful. Anytime you say anything to a player, you need to understand first what their assessment is, what they're designed to do, and then understand that if you just say, okay, just give me a neutral grip, if that's not the correct grip for them, they're now having to manage the club face throughout the entire swing in order to hit it straight. And so you've done them a disservice because they can't free it up and be the most powerful version of themselves and the most, I guess, trustworthy version of themselves. Because ultimately, I want to get on I want to get on and rip it and know my ball's going to go straight. I remember Johnny Miller, and again, I'm dating myself with some of the references here, but Johnny Miller used to say, if you want to be a champion, you have to be willing to do things that others aren't willing to do. And one of those things is to rip a driver down a narrow fairway, because I'd rather have a wedge in than a 7-iron, and I'll beat you every time. But if you don't know where that driver's going, probably have to play some defense, have to take a different club. So you're really being the best version of yourself. And so
Have you
that's
been
it's
watching my weekend golfing? Because you're pretty sure you're in the bushes watching exactly my swing. Yeah, it's scary to not know where your driver's going to be going, and I don't think I've ever felt confident off the tee because I've two-way misses,
I mean, it's
lot of
probably,
not a
if you think
confidence.
about it, it's probably the most important club in your bag, not because you use it the most, but because it sets up the hole. You, whether you like it or not, influences your state of mind, right?
Oh yeah,
Like if you're always chipping out or you're always worried, I mean, you don't want to be scared on the golf course, right? You don't want to be on the first tee going, man, I don't, I don't know where this is going. that's not a good feeling, right? So if you drive it well, it's really the game becomes so much easier. But you can only drive it well if you let it go. You can only drive it well if you know that if you let it go, it's going to be okay. And I'm not when I say it's going to be okay, it's like you can still have a 30, 40, 50-yard wide dispersion on a driver. There's plenty of room out there. If you think about an average fairway is 40 yards wide, and you probably have 10 more yards on either side of that. That's rough. It's still playable. And it's when you get those really wild shots, it's like, well, now it's basically like a penalty shot every time you hit a driver. Well, that's kind of a bummer.
Big time.
Yeah.
Josh, you're known for kind of like swinging your swing, like helping people unlock what their authentic kind of swing is, and we're seeing that more and more in today's game. I mean, Scotty Scheffler's got his swing. You mentioned John Rahm a few times. There's so many kind of unique swings now. I mean, it seemed to be maybe 10, 15 years ago, everybody was chasing the Adam Scott, Tiger Woods kind of swing. And
Right.
now people seem to be embracing their own authentic swing. So aside from the grip, let's just assume then that have found their natural grip. What would be another thing that would help us to understand what our unique swing might be, or our
Yeah.
kids?
So another one would be your external shoulder rotation. So I'm standing profile. I put my arm in like a 90-degree angle, and then notice how much my arm can go back. That's called
Mm,
external shoulder rotation. If I test some people, they can't get it more than there. And some people are even here if they have like a bad rotator cuff, right? So if
mm,
you can't do this, what are your chances of being able to shallow the club on the way down, right?
yeah,
This
low.
move would shallow a club or make you come more from the inside. But what if you're stuck here and you can't do it? You're going to come over the top, right? Well, you
Yeah.
still want to play good golf. You still need to deliver the club from the inside or on the plane. So we can adjust for that by changing your setup. So I don't necessarily have everybody set up with their feet parallel to the target line. Some people need their trail foot pulled back a little bit in order to adjust for the fact that they don't have external shoulder rotation. So that's a huge one for me. Uh, Now, some people will present as not having much, but then dynamically when they swing, they have it. I'm like, okay, well, we don't have to drop your right foot back because even though you tested this way, that you are able to do it during the swing, and that's fine too. But it's a matter of like just doing your detective work. Like what is this? What can this person do, right? Um, and and are they being taught a method or are they being taught, like you said, to be genuinely the best blueprint of themselves, right? And I tell people, I'm just returning you to your factory settings. When they come to me and they're all messed up, I'm like, well, we don't know what your factory settings are. Let's find out. And then let's just reboot you to those. And all of a sudden you're unlocked. And I get this smile on my face, like, and they'll hit their driver like 20, 30 yards longer and they'll have this big smile. And I'm like, you don't get 30 every lesson. It's just this first one you get a lot more because I unlocked you, right? And now that you're unlocked, you can hit it longer and you can hit it straighter. Um, but it's that would be probably my second most important one is I need to know that. And then I also have people pivot their bodies and see what their tendencies are. Do they tend to lean onto their lead foot? Do they stay more centered? Do they go more to their trail foot? Again, this is all part of, I'm not taking any credit for this. This is all what Mike Addams and Terry Rolls have done a great job of disseminating this information. I like to surround myself with great minds. And I'm uh, a learner through and through. I consider myself a student. My wife kids me because I'm still working on my game. And she's like, aren't you already there? I'm like, no, I just met this amazing person who is able to, help me with some things and I'm going to go for it because I still feel like my best golf is ahead of me. And, uh, and I think that everybody can just keep getting better. So, but ultimately you got to be you. If you're trying to be somebody else, it's just not true. It's not gonna hold under pressure.
So let's talk now to the parents that are trying to let's say that they're past introducing their child to golf and now they're trying to kind of nurture that authentic swing in their child without applying too much pressure or just trying to like how as a parent can we screw it up basically or conversely how can we not screw it up when the child is maybe 10 to 14 and trying to like lock in certain things.
Uh, so I think that I would say if I had to give you like what's the role of the parent, it's an interesting question because I don't think there's just one way. I think there's lots of ways. But I would say there's some commonalities that I would say. The first and most, I would say the most important thing that you want to do as a parent is make the golf course the safest, most enjoyable place for your kid. That they want to go there. They're not feeling pressure to perform, especially perform for you as the parent. Uh, and this is something I'm pretty open about when a parent first comes and brings their child to a lesson. And like, first of all, thank you, parent, for being the supportive person who's bringing their child to somebody to help them, because that's a great parent. They're bringing somebody to an expert because they want the best for their kid. And I say, your dad or your mom is going to love you whether you hit the ball well or you hit the ball poorly. And I look at the parent, I'm like, isn't that right? They're like, absolutely. That's always the answer, right? But I want the kid to hear it, because if they're playing to make their parents happy, they're playing for the wrong reason. I know as a junior, I didn't play to make my dad happy. My dad brought me to the golf course. The minute I touched the club, I'm like, whoa, this is the coolest thing ever. I do not, this is not, I never even crossed my mind. I just did it because it was so much fun. And I couldn't wait to go to the golf course. And I hated getting picked up from the golf course. I don't know if there's a safer place in the world for me than on a golf course. When I'm in an MRI machine getting like a shoulder looked at or a knee looked at, I play my home course that I grew up in Caracas, Venezuela in my mind, because that's my happy place. And I want that for all my juniors. I want them to love the game. I want them to feel safe regardless of how they play. And as far as being true and really reaching your potential, that's got to be the baseline. Because if it's not a safe place for you, it's just a time bomb in so many ways. And I want the parent to hear that. So I actually love it when parents stay for the lesson. I do, as long as they're not like right on top of me. They're in the background, but they're supporting their kid. Um, but I also say things that I really want the parent to hear. Uh, because ultimately they're a huge part of the team that's supporting the child. Um, and it could be like my mom, who used to take me to the golf course every Thursday afternoon to take a lesson from the local pro. She would sit back about 30 yards away, read her book, occasionally glance and watch me hit a few balls, but she was there to bring me there. She was there to, greet me afterwards. I mean, she was there to support, and my dad was always there. I play a lot of golf with him, and still to this day, my dad's 92 years old. We still play golf together when we get together. It's a happy place for me. And that's, I think, and I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I'm rambling here a little bit, but I think that ultimately it's got to be for the pure joy and fun. If you're ever going to get anywhere, and anywhere doesn't have to be like high school team or college team or playing professionally. It's just like, this game is so much fun. It takes us away from all the stuff going on in the world that's kind of a bummer, with all the screen time and internet and social media and all this stuff that's really challenging our kids' uh, just mental health. Golf is a chance to escape that. It's a chance to get away from your phone. It's a chance to be with friends. It's a chance to learn amazing lessons. And if you happen to be really good at it, you can, play on your high school team and make more friends that way, and play in tournaments. And if you enjoy that, that's fantastic. If that's not where it leads you, that's fine too. But it's just got to be, ultimately, it's got to be a safe place that's enjoyable, regardless of what your path is. And I want the parents to understand that for sure.
What are the skill sets or like the mental traits that a junior needs to play well in tournaments? Like, what have you seen or experienced yourself when, the players are the best in tournaments versus the ones that are just like really good at practice? What's the difference?
I think it's resiliency, because you're going to get challenged by this game over and over and over again. And it's the ability to take a hit and get yourself up and be able to be mentally prepared to hit the next one. Uh, and I think skills are skills, and you build them. And I'm in the business of skill building with my students, and all that practice is great. But ultimately, again, you're out there by yourself. It's all up to you. You're the last line of defense, so to speak. and you've got to be able to encounter diversity and be able to take some punches and get back up and perform. And it's a hard skill. But ultimately, I go back to my prior point, if you feel safe and it's enjoyable, then that becomes a lot more possible. But if you're taking it as, okay, if I don't play well, what are they going to think of me? Are my parents going to still love me? If you're going there, it's a really challenging thing mentally for a kid to overcome.
Yeah. Yeah, well said. So feeling safe to kind of go out there and perform, having the resilience and the grit to overcome the adversity, which inherently is going to be in the game. What are the other kind of traits that, like, let's just say that you were given 100 junior players dropped off on one day, and you had
Yeah.
one day to kind of watch them all hit and play around with them. Maybe not one day, but maybe a couple weeks or so. Like, and then you were tasked with maybe picking the 10 out of those 100 that would have the best chance to go on and play high level junior and perhaps Division 1 and professional golf. What would you be looking for out of that group of 100 kids?
Well, one of the things that's kind of a deal breaker, like we talked about earlier, is you got to have power, and you got to be
Mm,
able to develop the power. So, um, some kids are just naturally faster than others, and it's just like any sport. I've got a son who plays high level soccer. He's a goalie, and as he keeps progressing to higher and higher levels, you see the taller, fitter, more explosive athletes, and the pyramid keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller, right? So that would be one thing, is just the physical ability to move that ball. And we now, unlike when I was growing up, we now train it. We train speed. We train power. Tiger kind of revolutionized the fitness, and well, maybe before that was Gary Player, but nobody was listening to him compared to when Tiger came and had more exposure. Uh, but so power is definitely one thing. I would say another thing would be to mentally have tools uh, to be able to perform, like the ability to do breathing exercises, mental exercises, visualization exercises, things that uh, um, help calm you down. The ability to experience meditation that can put you in certain states that give you uh, a better chance. Because basically, when I look at the mental game, there's some great companies out there and teachers out there for kids. And I'm part of one with Flow Code with Rick Sessinghouse. I've done a lot of work with Pia and Lynn at Vision 54, just arming kids with these skills, just like chipping is a skill, putting is a skill, and driving is a skill. Being able to monitor yourself mentally on the golf course, being aware of your state, knowing how to change your state when you're not in the ultimate state. Because what I feel the role of the mental game is the ability to put yourself in a situation where you have access to your skill set. I mean, just because you're mentally strong doesn't mean if you can only hit it 250, all of a sudden you can hit it 300. But you still want access to what you can do, and you want to do it. You want to have as much access as possible in order for you to play the best you can. So I would say power is definitely one. Mental skills definitely one. Uh, and then I would also say, like, I don't know if sense of humor, or these are kind of like, you know not necessarily tangible skills, but just the ability to laugh something off. Um, because sometimes I had my in-laws in town, and they're big tennis fans. I was watching the tennis US Open a couple weeks ago, and there was this one match where Sinner was playing against Bublik, and Bublik was just getting killed. And Sinner's just this amazing player, and Bublik was just laughing because he's like, "This guy is so good, I cannot play." But it's like sometimes you're just outmatched, and sometimes you need a sense of humor. Say, you know what, it's okay. Tip your hat. The guy's playing better than me. And I do want to bring up another point about skills that I would look for. I would look for skills where the player is only comparing themselves to themselves and not comparing themselves to others for validation or self-worth or um, happiness based on whether they perform better than somebody else. And I say this to, like, not just my juniors, but every player that I teach. what did you do today that made you a better golfer than you were yesterday? Because ultimately, all we can do is we really have no influence over what anybody else does. Ultimately, all we can do is just go through the process and become better than we were before and just keep improving. And then you see how it stacks up against other people. I mean, Rory's playing really well, but he's not stacking up against Scheffler right now, but that's okay. Rory's just doing the best he can, right? And and if you approach it like I'm just comparing myself to myself, that's a really important trait. I'll give you a little anecdote. I had a kid who came to me with his dad for his first lesson, 10 years old, and I asked him why he plays golf. And his answer shocked me, but maybe it should have shocked me. He said, "Fame. How about that?" So I said, okay. I only had a half an hour lesson with this kid, but I said, listen, I'm going to get to looking at your swing and we're going to make you hit it better today. But before we start, I want to change and give you some more information about why we play golf or why we should play golf. It's not about TikTok, Instagram, fame, endorsements, all that kind of stuff. That's not why we play golf. And that's not what will get you to play your best golf. Uh, And I went back to just telling him about the pure joy. I said, when did you start playing golf? He said he was 6. I said, when you were 6, did you know about all this fame? He was like, no. He goes, why'd you hit the ball? Because it was fun. Oh, let's go back to that. Right. Because ultimately, and he had a hat that had a signature on it. And I'm like, oh, who signed it? He goes, oh, Scotty Scheffler. I said, hey, just out of curiosity, how many commercials is Scotty Scheffler in? I've never seen him in one. Because Scotty just likes to practice and get better and be with his family. You know, he didn't do it for them. He's still not doing it for the fame. He just likes to see how well he can play, and he loves to practice. And he loves to go to the golf course, be with his friends. He plays social golf when he's at home. He just loves golf. He's got a great Randy Smith, fantastic teacher. I'm sure he had a huge influence on him. He's been successful with so many different players, but I mean, you just saw a kid that loves to play golf. So I would say a going back to your question, one of the traits I'd look for is somebody who just loves the process of getting better, has a ton of fun playing the game, doesn't compare themselves to others. And yeah, they need to hit it pretty far if they're going to be elite. That's just part of the game we're playing these days. It's just is what it is, as they say.
Okay, so if you're a parent or a player and you want to get in front of Josh Zander, what's the best way to do it? How do people find you? What's the best way to get into your ecosystem?
So you can go to my website, zandergolf.com. You can sign up for a lesson right through that. If you want to see some of my videos, if you want to see me remotely, you can do it on Skillist app. I also have on Skillist, I have a whole library of different skills that you could learn by subscribing to that. If you want to see videos, I'm on Instagram, YouTube, all those. Uh, so I'm out there. Just Google Josh Zander. You'll find a whole bunch of stuff. And some of the stuff that's, older, because I've been doing this for a while, may not even be what I'm teaching now because can't remember who told me this, but I always reserve the right to improve. So some of the stuff I said a while ago, that's as good as I could do then, but I feel like I'm better now. And if we have this conversation 5 years from now, I'll probably have developed further because that's who I am. And I love to share as much as possible. I don't have any secrets. Anything I can possibly do that's going to make the student better to have them have more fun, I'm all in. Uh, and I'm also realize that I don't have all the answers, and there's so many great experts out there. You're doing a great job by providing a lot of information to a lot of people, uh, giving them access to different coaches, whether it's on your podcast or just who you talk to, because I think that it takes a village to raise a golfer, just like it takes a village to raise a child. I have two of them, and we seek help all the time. And there's so many great experts out there that can help. And I feel like my job as a coach is to really be like the Sherpa or the guy that can keep you on the proper path, because there's so much information out there that you can get going down the wrong path sometimes. And I can kind of not really shortcut it, but just make sure you're staying on path. But I think that we have so many amazing people out there doing great work that are, it's amazing how big this industry has become. You go to the PGA show, you're like, wow, there's all this stuff going on just to try to hit a golf ball straight. It's like, wow, we've really it's amazing how big the business has grown. And it's great to see, because I think it's, I'm biased, but I think it's just one of the coolest ways to spend your time is out there with your friends with a golf ball and your club and just whacking it and having a great time, and trying to get better at it is a lifelong pursuit. And super, I just, anytime I get a new student, I'm like, wow, you're about to go on the coolest journey ever. And it's going to be bumpy, but you're going to learn a ton. You're going to be frustrated, but you're going to learn how to deal with frustration. You're going to learn so many things, but ultimately, you're going to have a blast doing this. And it's a great way to spend your time.
Yeah, so well said. And Josh, you've shared so much value in this podcast. So thank you for that. Last question for you here. What should we be talking about that we haven't talked about yet? What do people need to know?
That's a great question. What should we be talking about? I think, and maybe I think we've touched on this already, but I just think that ultimately, just fall in love with the game, because it's something that it's so challenging that all the other problems you have in your life kind of go away when you're trying to get good at golf. And it's an oasis from a lot of things. I mean, life is a challenging thing. There's nobody who avoids challenging situations. But what golf gives you is this little world inside your world that it just allows you to just be a kid, have fun, and try stuff. And it's just this wonderment. It's hard to explain, but I just think that if you just let yourself love this game and deal with the frustrations that come with being a golfer, like there's so many jokes about it out there, people, quitting golf and then, trying to get a tee time the next morning. It's just like, it's that kind of a thing. But if you just let yourself fall in love with it, and, I know your podcast is about parents and kids, and it's a great way to have an amazing relationship with your child. It's a great way to have a relationship with your parent. It's a great way to spend time with people. It's a great way to get away from challenges in your life and just go back to ultimately being a kid and having fun, and just pure joy.
And as a parent, I can't think of a better way to, keep your child off of a screen for 4.5 hours, get them outside, fresh air, spend time with them if you're golfing with them as well. Like it's that's a whole other hour of a podcast to talk about all the infinite ways that golf is the greatest game in the world. And I think that most of the audience that be listening to this is not in their head and testify, preach, because everybody that I know that's been bit with the golfing bug, that's it, you're fully obsessed. Because again, you can never master the game, you can just play it, and you can always get better, get better, but yet you can never be perfect.
And enjoy that process. Just like I tell people all the time, like, okay, so you won a tournament, okay, now that's over, but you're living the process. So the true goal is the process, not the end. So when this kid said fame, I'm like, he's thinking about what the end is. Oh, so you get famous, then what? Who cares? Like, now you're back out there, it's you and the golf ball. Are you enjoying that? Are you enjoying the fact that you want to get a little bit better at chipping or putting or whatever it is? Enjoying that process is really where the rewards are. And the results are the results, and you don't even have control over that because there's other people doing it too. And some people may be more talented. There's always going to be somebody bigger, faster, more talented. Even that, Tiger's no longer the number one player in the world. He had his run, but then somebody else took over. It's the thing, somebody else will take over. Scott is having his run now, and somebody else will take over. It's like, if your goal is to be the best, then it's a problem. If your goal is to be the best you can be, you're off on an amazing journey.
Well, I'll tell you this. I've enjoyed this conversation, Josh. Thank you. Thank you for coming on. Thanks for sharing some of your wisdom. I really do appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Hey golf parents, before you go, I just want to say thank you for being here. If you found value in this episode, please follow the podcast, leave a short review, or share it with another golf parent who would love it. Every single one helps us grow this movement to raise future champions together. Thank you. See you next week.